Welcome to our Priestess Circle. I am your host and High Priestess, Clarity Barton. And for this full moon in Virgo, I felt to invite Sister Luisa to co create with me. In this episode, Luisa talks about the difference between the light goddess and the dark goddess through her experiences of leading circles, workshops, and retreats to honor either one of them. Luisa is a priestess, a medicine woman, a teacher, leader, a mother, and a goddess in her own right. Her journey started as a child as she questioned the religious beliefs of her parents and began talking to plants, trees, and rocks about their wisdom. Luisa later studied with teachers and shamans from all around the world, from Spain to Norway to England, Sweden, throughout the USA, and across Canada. Luisa is an initiated priestess of the Red Drum, as well as other priestess lineages. She facilitates Red Drum workshops, Red Tents, sacred menarche initiations, cacao ceremonies, and other wonderful gatherings for her clients to connect to who they truly are. She also owns a metaphysical store in north of Toronto called Enchantments by Luisa, where her sisters can purchase anything esoteric and witchy for their personal empowerment and healing. After the discussion, Luisa will describe a fertility spell that you can do on this full moon to welcome anything new and nourishing that you'd like to see flourish in your life. I hope that you receive tons of blessings from this discussion and practice. The circle is now open. Welcome to our full moon priestess circle.
Well, thank you, Clarity, for having me here. And it's such an honor and a privilege to always connect with you, my sacred sister.
And thank you, Lisa, for accepting this invitation to share your wisdom. I remember especially this powerful red drum ritual that you led um, us through in one of our women's retreat. And I feel like I had the privilege to really witness you as a teacher and an amazing healer in both capacity, connecting with the light goddess through Aphrodite rituals
Mhm.
and this dark goddess, which I'm really excited to dive into today. So I wanted to ask you to begin to clarify a little bit the difference between those two for you.
So, for me, on my path, what I've discovered is that there is always two aspects or two trains of thought when speaking to these beautiful women. Either they are so set on working with the light and their divine feminine, but they forget that there's all we are also the dark goddess in herself. We go through hurts, we go through dark periods of our lives. So light needs to be balanced by dark, for we have the day as we have the night. So we have the yin and the yang, so we have that constant flow, and it's always about balancing the two and not being afraid of being so called a witch and a healer, or being called the divine feminine that we are, the goddess in ourselves.
Hmm. I love that yin yang. It's so true that we very much need both, and nature is made of both. We need death to have life. We need the contrast to appreciate them both, and or to appreciate the light. We need the contrast more so.
Mhm.
And I wonder what kind of medicine they both come with, this connection to the light goddess and this connection to the dark goddess. What would you say that sisters receive when they connect to one or the other?
Well, again, it's about the balance. So you can't always work with one particular light goddess all the time, because what I see is people get out of balance. They're not working with their shadow selves. They're not working with their hurts because they just want to work with love and light and everything that's beautiful and love and having that happiness all the time, but not acknowledging the hurts that we've gone through, or that inner child that is suffering, or that hurt other aspects of us that get stuck, whether it's a bad friendship you had to let go of, a relationship, or even just honoring yourself as, you know what, I'm having a bad day.
Mm. So, would you say the dark goddess helps us to heal more than the light goddess? Is that one of the difference?
It's not that it's more what I find, it's that acknowledgement of both.
Mm.
And working with the different goddesses like I do, it's okay to work with one for this month or next month or for a certain period of time. But don't forget to work with a different goddess to also help you balance that and heal. And what I find in a lot of my practices is that women come to me for the red tents, for the sacred ceremonies, but then they're afraid of the witch ceremonies, of the dark, working with the dark goddesses. So this is what I mean about finding the balance of both. And it's not Wiccan based, it's not a religion based, it is more folkloric magic that I would do, if that would make any sense.
Hmm. And so, describe to us a little bit about those witch rituals that you do and what one might expect from them.
So I tend to do a lot with Lilith as well as Hecate or Hecate. And when I do, I prefer to do a weekend retreat because I find we dive deeper into the magic of these goddesses. So I do certain rituals within sacred space. And these rituals last anywhere from 2 to 3, sometimes even a little bit longer hours. So it's not just something I can just describe, it's a feeling. Sometimes we go into the depths and take that journey with Persephone to the underworld and finding that healing that we need to look at that before we can come back up into the light.
I remember very well this journey, and I'm feeling this all over my body, Louise, as you're describing it. And I remember this feeling of feeling so grounded and calm and centered after you took us into, I think it was an intuitive meditation
Through the
uh,
cave, through the dark cave.
in the cave. And I was surrounded, I think it was a red cave, because
Wow.
I remember for me it was red anyway. And the grounding is darker and the cave is dark, and yet there's such a sense of peace with that. And I feel like this is really what we're longing for, actually. So how would you contrast this sort of feeling that I experience, for example, of grounding, of peace, of connection with that dark mother energy, compared to the light goddess and what she might bring us and the feelings that we might get from connecting with her?
Right. And I know exactly the meditation that I took you through at that event at one of your retreats, and it was a very powerful weekend to begin with. And but taking someone into the dark cave, which is the recesses of our lineage, our matriarchal lineage, of our the womb of the mother, the grandmother, the great grandmother, because we are connected. Women are connected through the bloodline in order to heal that way. But I've also done that meditation where I'm asking Hecate to come through, to stand her ground, to allow us, to pick us up, to nurture us and heal us from the wounds that we carry. So when we're working, but you've also experienced with me personally where I've done the Aphrodite ritual, where it's all about love and it's a water blessing. We got the two different kinds of rituals, and they're two different energies completely. So, how can you bring in the light without having to deal with the dark? Have that healing come through, call in upon the dark mother, and then bring in the light about self love and love of sisterhood and love of everybody else, because love heals. Don't
Mm.
forget that.
I feel like the Dark Mother is very clearing in a way, like if she would create space of deconditioning and just dropping down like all our defenses and blockages that we've put in place in order to protect ourselves and kind of to survive in this society where a lot of things actually don't resonate with us and who we are, but we have to pretend to function. And then the light goddess can come in to fill that now empty cup with something that is deeply nourishing and life giving.
Absolutely.
I wanted to ask you, how would you recognize when it's time to work with either the dark goddess and when it's time to work with the light goddess in your life?
So, my answer to that actually is very simple. It's time to work with the dark mother when you're irritated, you're frustrated, you're angry, or you've noticed that people are not who you think they are. And things always come to light. So, you call upon one of the dark mothers and ask them to do that cleansing, to go down deep, deep into your soul, pull that out so you can come back up into the light.
So when you're feeling emotional and there's this shadow that is coming up for you to look at and to address,
Correct.
and the dark mother helps with.
Correct. Correct. And don't be afraid of sourcing out some spells or spell work that calls upon these amazing goddesses that are the darker goddesses. And it's okay to afterwards to call upon a light goddess to help heal the other aspects as well and bringing more light in. But you can't just bring light constantly if you're not dealing with the dark. So again, it's going back to that balance.
How do you go about reassuring women who are afraid to call in the dark goddess?
Call me. Call me. There's nothing to be afraid of, if that makes sense. It's
Make
okay. It's getting out of your comfort zone. It's getting out of your comfort zone. And we've as humans, we've been so conditioned by a lot of religious beliefs that anything dark is evil or bad, but it's not. It's a conditioning. So even with my practices, and this is something we briefly discussed, I have two aspects of my practices. I have my red tents and my goddess work that I do, which is very important to me. But I also do the witchcraft and the darker aspects. And that's also the healing aspects. So I work with the both. And for me, this is where I find my balance. I can't be just one and I can't be just the other. I have to be the blend of both. So even with my teachings, I have teachings that are more witchcraft and spell based, and I have other ones that it's the love of sisterhood. It's such a completely different energy.
I'd love to hear about some of your personal experiences connecting with the light goddess and with the dark goddess. How did they came to you in your life? What was the journey like for you to discover their healing, their power, and who they were?
So on my journey, on my sacred journey, I have come across many different goddesses. And how I find that I'm ready to work with them, I start to see them appearing, whether it's in dreams. I'm seeing signs with names. I'm seeing feed come up on my social media, or sometimes it's more of it's smack in the face where I would walk into a store and all of a sudden I have a statue of green Tara that's been sitting there for it's full of dust. And all of a sudden it's like she's calling me to bring her home. And I'm like, okay, she needs to come home with me. It's that energy that you just know, and I'll bring her home. And I know it's time for me to work with that particular goddess at that moment. Doesn't mean I still don't honor the other goddesses that I have in the past. It's more of, okay, what is she like? What does she need from me? What do I need from her? And finding that communication with her through meditation, through rituals, and through magic.
And were you ever afraid of the dark goddess?
Was I ever afraid? Skeptical, I would say, but never afraid. I was never afraid, if that makes sense. In the
Hmm.
beginning, it's more of, is she who she is? And then you start working more and you start to understand more on your spiritual path. You're like, okay, I'm starting to understand it. It's like when you learn tarot, it's a complete different kind of language. So as you start to learn, you start to dive deeper, the symbology, the numerology, the communications, everything is just starts to unfold.
So your understanding of her allowed you to not fear her. So perhaps sisters who find resistance to working with dark goddess archetypes can start researching about them to be reassured, and also perhaps discerning what resonates and what doesn't resonate, because there's a lot of misinformations about these archetypes too. And at the end of the day, I think perhaps we need to seek the teachers that we resonate with. We feel that they're really speaking from their own experience with these archetypes, and they're skillful in guiding us through this connection with these
Mhm.
goddesses. I wanted to ask you a question about the dark goddess and what she brought you specifically in your life, perhaps in terms of healing or transformation that you needed to do for yourself.
What brought, okay, so one of them that came to me, it actually brought me a sense of peace. So it allowed me at that moment, that particular moment, to deal with the demons that I was dealing with, if that makes sense. So working with one of these dark goddesses, I was able to deal with things that I didn't know how to deal with. Then things became clearer as time went on. Then you start to develop this understanding.
So what was that you didn't know how to deal with?
I had some personal things that I was dealing with. There was some anger there. There was a lot
Some.
of other things that was there for
Mhm.
me. And it's more of that hurt, that anger, that because anger comes from hurt. So when this goddess came approached me, I was seeing her everywhere, everywhere. And I didn't know who she was at first. And then I actually ordered a beautiful piece of art that came up from California. It took forever to come in, and she hangs on my wall, and she is always with me. So she is my first devotee, you can say. And she has different aspects to her as well. She's got the light aspect, she's got the dark aspect, but she is not your typical goddess.
Is that Lilith, you said?
No, this one is La Santa Muerte, Our Lady
Ah,
of the Dead,
from Mexico.
from Mexico. She's a folkloric saint, yes.
Beautiful.
She's the very first one that came to me.
And isn't that true that a lot of goddesses actually have this duality within them,
Mhm.
but that somehow, perhaps through times, they were segregated into one or the other of the light and the dark goddess?
Absolutely. Every goddess has a light and dark aspect to her, many facets, you can call.
And I find that it's such a mirroring of our consciousness or of our culture,
Mhm.
that we like to judge someone as either good or bad and cast people out if they're exhibiting some traits that we don't like typically, or that are not socially acceptable,
Correct.
when in fact everyone has this shadow side. And I find that especially women tend to be put into these boxes of either the saint, the mother, and the mother cannot be sexy or slutty, or and then there's all the ones who are more alternatives that are seen as not desirable or not stable or crazy.
It is. And that's exactly what it is. Because as humans and as a society as a whole, we do compartmentize. We do put everybody in a box and we do label things. So when I run my circles and my events, first person we honor is ourselves. We call in ourselves into sacred space. We honor our sacred lineage. That itself is very powerful. And not we don't need a label. I am Louisa. I am who I am. I am my own goddess. So when we call upon ourselves that way, all of a sudden there's a shift.
Because we are in the middle
Mhm.
as well, right? So we call in that center first and foremost. Because the question that I had next was to imagine how it would look like to honor both the light and the darkness
Mhm.
together.
Mhm.
How would you go about reconciling these two aspects of the goddess for you?
So the light and dark, I actually do a lot of this when I am running circle, when I'm running sacred circle for women. Um, what is it that we want to release? I have rituals that I do specifically for the dark goddess. So we will do some release ceremonies and some things that are hurtful, okay? Some shadow aspects. And then I will do something with a lighter one of the lighter goddesses, whether it's Aphrodite or Venus or even Durga, and bring in that energy of what do I'm ready to receive now. You need to let go. Allow the dark goddess to take it into the underworld and let go and bury it. Get rid of it. Let her burn it away. But you can't make room for what's to come unless you work with the dark goddess to release.
Mm-hmm.
I always like that balance of both.
So you would bring them both into one ritual. I
Mhm.
also really like seeing the dark aspect of a goddess who is typically labeled dark or light.
Mhm.
So to see the opposite aspect. So, for example, Aphrodite, she has well, originally she was also a goddess of war, as we know, just like Venus is war
Yes.
and love.
Yes.
And there's a lot of things attached to her sexuality that is a little bit patriarchal in a way. She was that's this is kind of the edge that I see in Aphrodite because she was created from the the testicle of Zeus that fell into the ocean and then created this foam, and she arose on this shell, right, like fully naked. And so there's something to her that I like to see as attached to this archetype of the feminine that actually likes masculine sexuality a lot, and perhaps the part of us that likes to be a little bit dominated, that like to be subservient, you know. So that's kind of like the edge that I like to play around, because I think that perhaps we can be ashamed of this aspect in us. So it's important to talk about it and to embrace it and to name it and to see that it's a beautiful expression of our femininity too. So I like to see that with, you know, Aphrodite, when we think that she's all, you know, pure and beautiful. Actually, she has this kink. This is how I see her anyway.
She absolutely does. And she also allows us and reminds us that in order for us to have love for your local, for your other people, for other people, for humankind, but it starts with self-love.
Mm,
It starts with self-love. So you
mhm,
need to take that power of that strong power to say, you know what? I am Aphrodite. I know, and I this is what I want. This is what I need. So to have that, but you're doing it with love.
mhm. And sometimes to do that, you need to have strong boundaries
Hmm.
too. So it's not just all unconditional love and unconditional acceptance. It's being very clear on who you are and what you are not. in
Exactly.
order for you to feel really full, and from that place to play with others and to explore in sensuality and sexuality with others. So
Absolutely.
there's a lot of fierceness actually. I wanted to also explore the light aspect of a goddess that we tend to see as dark. I don't know if you can speak on that.
Which one?
Well, for me, I work a lot with Kali.
Yeah.
So Kali is obviously a fierce dark mother, and she is known to be a half goddess and half demon actually. So perhaps we can talk about that a little bit later. What do we mean by demon and evil, to clarify a little bit what that is. um, but when we look into some of the writings of some of her devotees, such as Ramakrishna, probably her most famous devotee and saint. I think he's some saint figure. We can see that he related to her sweet aspect, her sweetness of the mother, and the words that he used to describe her were so loving and so gentle. And it seems that she was the all-giving mother.
Mhm.
And I think I remember in his writing that he describes calling to Kali as a kitten calls in for milk from his mother. So
Mhm.
just this like innocence of a kitten meowing for milk, and she provides just as naturally as nature provides without asking. And as soon as there's this need that comes from our heart, from the right place, there is this giving of the mother. And I find that so powerful, because I think a lot of sisters or a lot of people see Kali as the one who takes a lot. She takes all the things that we actually don't need, that our ego is attached to, things that are holding us back, and sometimes it's painful.
Mhm.
And yet there's something that she gives that is far greater than what she takes. And I wonder if perhaps that's something that you're exploring too with the dark goddess, because I know you do manifestation
Mhm.
spells, for example. So I wonder how that resonates for you.
Oh, absolutely. Because every goddess, as dark as she is, always has that softer side, that softer giving aspect. Whoever she is, it doesn't, regardless of what pantheon that you work with, they all have that aspect. And not be afraid. This is what I mean, going back to what we said earlier, not be afraid to work with these beautiful, powerful dark goddesses, because they all have a softer side, they all have a light side.
It's so true. And yet I wonder then, because as much as I feel very protected by the Dark Mother, and if there's anything we can say about the Dark Mother, is her protection. I find that there's really nothing like that, and it comes naturally for me without needing to call upon her, because I work with her. She's always protecting me.
Mhm.
Um, so so I don't fear a lot of other darker entities, but I have to say, like, there is such thing as the darkness that is not beneficial to us, to our healing, to our evolution. The darkness that might actually perhaps take over us sometime, and make us feel very confused in our ideas. So, how would you describe that type of darkness, and especially in comparison to the dark goddess energy? How can we clearly separate them to clarify what they are?
Well, first off, we're human beings. We're going to go through ups and downs. We have emotions. We have things that we deal with. And a lot of things are not nice things to deal with. That's what that is. That is the dark aspect of having to deal with stuff, the crap basically that you don't want to deal with, but you have to deal with it. So, when you're working with a darker goddess, it's not only allowing you to deal with the stuff that you don't want to deal with, but it's also allowing you to heal on a deeper level. if that makes sense, if what I'm saying.
Mm.
So it's getting through those hurdles. Yeah, we all have moments where we just want to sit in the dark with the windows, with the blinds closed, and just not do anything and cry. Cry is a form of cleansing. We're human. We have emotions. We have to let go. It's a release. It's a release.
So perhaps the actual darkness that we need to be aware of is the kind of darkness that is holding us back from doing the work, and
Mhm.
looking at our shadow and accepting the gift there to process this energy and these emotions, and to see clearly the lessons that want to come through from them.
Exactly. And a lot of when clients come to me for readings, I always say to them, there's no mistakes. We don't make mistakes. We only have lessons. Sometimes they're harder lessons, sometimes they're not so hard lessons. But at the end of it all, it's only the lessons that we go through. Do you learn from them? Are you going to repeat them? So when
Mhm.
you have a lesson that was very painful that you had to deal with or working through, honor that dark goddess. Allow her to take that from you. Ask her to help you over those hurdles, and you will see how unburdened you become or less burdened you become by allowing her to come in and assist you.
I feel like there's a lot of surrendering
Mhm.
required to connect to the dark goddess.
There is
And I wonder how you do that. Do you do that with prayers or rituals?
chanting, rituals, prayers, anything that helps. Anything that helps. Sometimes even a simple meditation with a printed image. You can print images of any of the goddesses from anywhere on the internet. Print off an image, place a candle in front of her. Do a simple practice on a daily basis just to connect with her. Doesn't take much. 2 minutes, 5 minutes, sit within that space. Don't
Hmm.
think, just breathe and allow that energy to come into your own self, into your heart space.
And then see what happens. You're basically opening the door for mystery to come through and reveal what to clarify. Like sometimes I find that when we're in darkness, it's actually just confusion, right?
It
Like
is
when
confusion.
we're
Yeah.
resisting, we're adding a lot of things on top of this resistance to justify the resistance, and it kind of makes it worse. And we can stay there for a long time. And so for me, a dark goddess ritual would allow us to actually just drop down all these things that we built to compensate from our lack of willingness to admit that we do not know, and that we need that guidance. And that guidance can come in many ways. So
Mhm.
but yet it's always for the better,
It is.
even though it can be hard sometimes to end a relationship or move on in our life, and to even heal some patterns, some addictive patterns that have served us for a long time. And yet there's a new version of ourselves that wants to emerge, and that we'll get to celebrate in due time with the light goddess, with self-love, with pleasure. But that needs that space to emerge first. And so these cycles are really key, I find.
Mhm.
Just like you were describing, there's a time to be with the light goddess, there's a time to be with the dark goddess. And it begs this question: what goddess do you feel wants to come through us right now, collectively, to teach us some lessons? What aspects of a goddess do we need right now on a collective level?
Oh, absolutely. One of my favorite decks is actually it's called the Dark Goddess deck. It's an oracle deck. Sometimes it's just a matter of shuffling the cards. I have it in the other room, or else I'd go get it. Shuffling the cards, pulling one out, learning about that goddess. What do you need? What can she teach you? What can she help you through? It's a healing modality. So it's more of that, okay, what's next? You're not alone. Oftentimes we go into these darkness aspects, but we feel so alone because we don't know how to get out of it. Again, give it over to the goddess. Allow her to assist you.
And so, collectively, do you feel that it is perhaps the Dark Mother that we need more of now in order to get out of this collective state of confusion and perhaps find a sense of surrendering to something bigger than our egos and our attachments and our fears? That's what I'm sensing anyway. And I find it interesting that uh, the Vedics call it the age of
Mm-hmm.
Kali Yuga, right?
Yes.
So there's really some kind of tearing down of the veil of illusion, of old structures, of a lot of this kind of narcissistic
Mm-hmm.
culture that is so concerned with the individual as a consumerist. There's a lot really that needs to transform, and yet it's scary because so much is built on these ideas that are sustaining our society right now. The fact that we need to work like slaves, the fact that we always need more to be happy, and yet a lot of this is probably really transforming quite fast nowadays to make space for something else. And in this age of Kali, what they say is that actually bhakti, devotion, is the practice that allows us to navigate the best these times, and more so to become enlightened, which for me is another way to say to become more aware, to become filled with more consciousness and awareness of who we truly are and what is truly happening, instead of this confusion and illusions that
Mm-hmm.
we can find ourselves in very often.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, an easy way to remember, perhaps, if you're wanting to work with one of the darker goddesses or one of the lighter goddesses, an easy way to navigate is after Samhain, after October 31st, we go into the dark aspect, the sleepy time. Why not go and travel into the underworld and visit 6 different dark goddesses throughout the winter, our winter? Then come spring, start working with the light goddesses through the summertime and have that sense of rebirth and renewal.
That's great. Is that something you offer?
It is something I offer. It is something I offer, yes.
I'm really, really excited about your offerings and your community. I know you use the word witch a lot in relation to those circles that you organize around the dark goddess. I
Mhm.
wonder if you can tell us a little bit more about the witch and what that means to you.
The witch is the wise one, the crone. So it's the one that has that collective amount of knowledge. It's not a negative connotation, it is very much a positive one. A witch is a healer.
Absolutely. And so many sisters are able to express their inner healer and their inner wise one and their inner witch right now. And I love that we're getting out of the stigma from that word and reclaiming it, because it is very, very powerful.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Um,
It's a very, very powerful, powerful word. Absolutely.
yes. I am curious about your ritual. I know it is the full moon in Virgo tomorrow at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I think it's a great opportunity to explore with this Virgo archetype the goddess herself, because the Virgo is the goddess archetype, and some of her facets. But what came through you intuitively when I asked you to lead a ritual was a fertility ritual. So tell
Mhm.
us a bit more about that.
So I actually have created this fertility ritual. I've done this for many clients that come to me seeking certain things. I've used this to help to aid and assist clients on becoming pregnant. So it can be used for that. It's a fertility spell. You can also use it for where you need to bring more abundance. What do you need to make fertile in your current life? So it works on many aspects. And it's a simple but not so simple ritual. So one of the best things and one of the oldest and most powerful fertility enchantment techniques is a ritual bath. So we're going to do a ritual bath, and this is what this is. I'm going to teach you how to do a fertility bath. So I'll read off what you need, and then I will tell you a little incantation to use with it for Yamea. So Yamea, or Yamaja, she goes by many versions, and she is one of the goddesses of the Yoruba tradition. Very, very powerful, and known as the goddess of the seven seas. So you were going to start off with a pink candle or even a white candle. Okay. And you would bathe the candle in sacred rose oil, a beautiful rose oil that you feel called to. And you're going to state your intention for this candle. And with the same purpose, you call with one heart. What do you want inside to make fertile? And you ask the candle and you ask Yemaya, goddess of earth, air, fire, and water, in our lives we welcome you. But before you prepare your bath and before you prepare your ritual, you will need one small watermelon, 1 cup of sea salt mixed with 2 cups of spring water, some dried seaweed or kelp, okay, 1 water lily, and 1 cup of sacred water, whether that is Florida water or some type of blessed water or holy water. 7 pennies. So you cut the petals of the flower into small pieces and you place it into a large bowl. And you put the salt water over the petals. Then add your sacred water, your Florida water or holy water, and you cut a small hole into the melon and you place the pennies inside. Then you place the liquid inside and you light the candle in honor of Yamea and allow the mixture to sit for 3 days. On the third day, you pour the mixture into your bath water. You may summon Yamea by tying a green ribbon or a handkerchief around the candle, along with a picture of her honoring her. And you allow this and you sit and soak for about 40 minutes and take your candle and crystals with you to the bathroom. Crystals that you could use for this is moonstone and rose quartz, connecting with the goddess of the moon and love. So when you do this, you take your bath and then you would write your petition. What is it that you want to make fertile in your life? Is it a better job? Is it a better partner? Or is it something for yourself? And you're going to write that petition out and then you're going to burn it on the candle that you have lit for your bath and allow it just to disintegrate. Then when you take the ashes of this piece of paper and you blow it outside at the full moon and allow the moon to release your petition into the air. And one thing that this is a prayer that I find a lot of my clients love this little prayer. And it's simple. And it's Yemaya, blessed mother of the seas, let your sacred waters wash over me. Mother, embrace me, your humble child. Cleanse me, nurture me, and sustain me. Yemaya, beautiful one, you who wears the seven skirts of the seven seas. Swirl around me your energy to flow. Yemaya, mistress of the moon, shine your light onto me and fill me with your magic. I ask you to fulfill me with your healing energy. Let your cleansing waters wash over me. So blessed be.
Blessed be. Thank you so much for describing this ritual. Oh, it feels so good in my womb.
It does. It does, because that's, as women, that's where we are fertile. It's in our womb. So
Mm,
don't forget that that's where we hold our fertile energy.
mhm,
Meditate with that and bring it forth, bring it in. What make what you need fertile at this moment.
mhm. I love also the power in asking for what you want. I find
Mhm.
that it's so hard for us, especially women, because we're
Yes.
we're more perhaps in the feminine of just receiving what we're given sometimes. And asking for what we want is a very assertive thing to do, which perhaps we're not used to so much in the culture we were raised in. I definitely feel that for myself, that I'm much more inclined to say yes to something that is offered rather than to be specific about what I want. However, sometimes, and I don't know your take on that, but I don't encourage sisters to be too specific either, because there's usually something better that you don't even know of that wants to happen in exactly the way that it wants to happen. But I like the themes that you described that we can ask
Mhm.
um, more fulfillment in, like our job, our career, our relationships, our romantic relationships,
Mhm.
um, and and perhaps feelings that we can call in too, wanting to feel that abundance in our life, wanting to
Absolutely.
feel more comfortable in ourselves, more accepting in general, etc.
Mhm. But you need to ask. Ask and you shall receive. If you don't ask, you don't get anything. Work
Yes.
with the goddess and ask her. Ask her.
Mm-hmm.
She will aid you and assist you. And like you said, maybe there is something better for you. But ask if there is something that is meant for me to bring it forth
Mm-hmm.
for my highest and greatest good.
It's such an act of self love when we say the things that we want for ourselves. It's such
Mhm.
an act of accepting ourselves and
Mhm.
saying to the universe that we feel worthy of receiving something that is really nourishing and beautiful.
Yes. When I do a tea leaf reading session, I always have my clients ask something for themselves. Because as women, we tend to ask for our children, our parents, or other people, but never for ourselves. And I always stop them. I say to them, I said, make a wish and ask something from the divine, but it's something for yourself, not for anyone else, or else it won't work. It's got to be heartfelt from you to the divine mother.
Hmm. Yes. And do you find that this full moon would be a good time for
Absolutely.
for this asking? Okay, because I know new moons are great for manifestation too. I
Mhm.
think some full moons are good for manifestation, and yeah, we just need to be intuitive with that too, because some full moons are are not good for anything. The things will just happen naturally.
They're not. But it's also what resonates more with you. I have
Mhm,
some sisters that rather do certain rituals only at a new moon for
mhm,
manifestation, and I have other ones that only want to do it at a full moon. So there is no right or wrong. It's you have to do what feels right for you. What does it
mhm,
feel like for you? how is this going to be beneficial to you?
Hmm.
Ask and you shall receive.
And I love that you guided sisters to listen to their heart too, because our mind might think a lot of things, and it can be confused if there's a lot of just a lot of different themes that are running around and different ways to look at them. But our heart is that single point that just knows. And so I invite sisters to really inquire
Mhm.
and listen to their heart
Yes.
on this full moon, and listen for that simplicity, because I find that the heart is actually very simple in its answers. Sometimes it's just one word. Um, and the watermelon is interesting. I wanted to clarify this thing with the watermelon. Do you put the water in the watermelon and let it sit for 3 days?
Yes. So you're going to put your either your Florida water or your
Okay.
holy water into, you're going
Mhm.
to cut a hole and you're going to scoop it. You're going to like kind of swoosh it around so you get more puree to make
Okay.
room. And then you're going to put your pennies inside, and you can even put your petition inside. Also do
Okay.
it that way if you don't want to burn it, because some people are afraid of fire.
Right.
Not everybody's is comfortable with the fire element. So you can actually put your petition inside the watermelon and let it fester, let it kind of like sit for 3 days. And then you're going to
Mm.
pour that into the water for your bath.
Hmm. And would you say that we could replace the watermelon with something else and kind of adapt this ritual?
It has to be a water. It has to be a melon. It has to be some type of
Oh,
watermelon.
I
But
see.
watermelon, because it's a watermelon, is sacred to
Mhm.
Yamea. Because it's a
Mm,
watermelon. It's for water.
I see.
So you're honoring the water element, the water spirits.
Makes me think of the belly of the pregnant mother too.
Mhm. The watermelon, absolutely.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for all this wisdom, Lisa. I'm always amazed by your energy, and how much I resonate with everything that you share. It's really incredible. I found that you really have the medicine that a lot of people are looking for right now, in terms of being really strong and grounded in yourself, and very clear about your path as a
Mhm.
priestess.
Mhm.
And I'm very clear about how you teach about these things, which is so refreshing, because there's so much information out there, and it's, yeah, just very, very comforting to find someone who can talk about it with so much confidence. And I can feel all the experience that you had working with this magic, and how it has served you, and
Mhm.
how you're able to share it as a result. So it's a true inspiration every time to connect with you and to have you share. And I'm really excited to ask you for more collaboration in the future.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I wanted to share to whoever is listening that Luisa is offering many different session one-on-one, catered to what you need in this moment in your life. And she also offers beautiful circles for the light goddess through her Sisterhood of the Divine Goddess, and some beautiful, powerful dark goddess offerings too, through her other business called Enchantments by Luisa. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes. And so if you're looking for ancient ruins reading, tarot reading, mediumship, um, healing with ancestral lineages, and womb healing, womb activation, cleansing, and also, one thing that you offered, Lisa, which I think is super helpful for people, is home exorcism.
Mhm.
So if you want help with clearing your sacred space, Louisa is such an incredible sister that can offer that. And she is located, as well as her esoteric store, north of Toronto. So
Mhm.
definitely get in contact with her for all of this beautiful goddess magic. Thank you, Louisa, for taking time off your super busy schedule to share some of that with us, some of your magic and wisdom. It's such an honor. And yeah, I look forward to more of you in the future.
Oh, same, same, my beautiful sister, Clarity. It was such an honor to be here with you.
Thank
And thank
you.
you for allowing me to share.
Of course. Thank you for opening your heart. I'll see you soon.
We'll see you soon.